Casey, a very exciting thing happened in my life in the past week.
What's that?
Which is that my Apple Vision Pro finally arrived.
Wow. Well, I know this is something you have been excited to get your hands on basically ever since we tried it.
Yeah, and it took a little while for reasons that are complicated and probably not all that interesting, but have to do with how one gets a new piece of technology at the New York Times.
Specifically one that the New York Times and not yourself is paying for.
Correct. And so it took a while to sort of get the necessary approvals and to get it shipped out. But I do have it. I've had it for about a week now. And I was really excited to talk about it with you, except you don't have one. Is the platformer technology department not springing for one?
Well, the platformer procurement policy has said we'd maybe like to wait for version 2 or 3 of this thing.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about this because I have been having this sort of experience of using this thing every day since it showed up at my house. And it is a wild piece of technology. I think it has things that are really much better than I expected. It also has things that are sort of puzzlingly bad and much worse than I expected. And I wanted to just spend it's been a month since this thing has come out, and some people have been using it for most or all of that month. And I think it's time to sort of step back and say, well, this thing that came out that had all this attention around it, all this excitement, all this skepticism, what is it actually being used for? How are people liking it? And so today I thought we should bring in Joanna Stern. Joanna is a personal tech columnist at the Wall Street Journal, and she was one of the early reviewers that Apple actually sent a review unit to of the Apple Vision Pro. And she's written a lot of great stuff about her experiences using it. And I want to just talk to her about what the past month of using this device has been like for her, and talk about whether we think this thing is here to stay or whether this is just kind of a fad and a novelty item that is not going to be that widely used.
I like that. You know, I have a lot of friends who have got the Vision Pro, and I would say their opinions have been pretty mixed. But since you've gotten your hands on this thing, it seems to be bringing you a lot of joy. And I think it's brought Joanna some joy, too. So I'm curious to hear you two trade notes, particularly because Joanna, as you point out, has had this thing for a lot longer. And if nothing else, I think she might have some pro tips for you. Let's bring her in.
Joanna Stern, welcome to Hard Fork.
I'm so excited to be here. Seriously, longtime listener and viewer of both of you.
Long time, first time, as they say. Thank you. Well,
long time, first
the love
time.
is reciprocal. We're excited to have you here. So you were
said it to
among
everyone.
We actually did not say that to Kara Swisher. We said we're terrified to have you here.
That's true.
So true. So true.
You were among the anointed who were given early access to the Apple Vision Pro in order to test it. You made this great video and wrote this great column when it first came out. You spent 24 hours wearing this new device. You showed off all these different features, like putting timers over pots that you had simmering on the stove. You went skiing in the Vision Pro, and you used these personas, these little 3D renderings of your face on a FaceTime call with some other early testers. And I just got mine because, for reasons that are not worth going into here, but it takes a little while in the New York Times procurement process. So I've only had this for about a week, but you've been trying this now for a month. I would first love to ask you, like, what were your first impressions and what are your impressions now, a month later?
Well, I'd like to ask you about the New York Times procurement process.
Don't get me started.
I think that what I've really been feeling is that I want to love this and I want to wear it, but I don't. I don't actually gravitate towards wearing it a month in. And so that honeymoon period of when you get a new gadget and you're like, this is awesome. It smells so good. It feels so good. I can do all these things I can't do with my other things. And that's just like general tech excitement about any new product. It wears off here. And it isn't only that the excitement wears off, it's also that the use of it wears off. And so the things I find myself going towards it for now are not the things I actually thought I would. Like working was one I thought that, oh, I'm going to work in this all the time. It's going to be so great. I'm going to have all these monitors. I'm going to bring it to and from the office every day. Well, no, it's way too heavy to do that every day. My backpack is not big enough. I would have to buy a new backpack. I don't want to buy a new backpack. Buying backpacks for women is very tough. That's a whole other podcast. And then there are these things where I'm going to use it a lot more now that I didn't think it would be. And that was more in the entertainment world.
Talk about some of the other friction that comes to mind when you think, I want to use this thing more, but I'm not actually doing it. What are just kind of the steps to use the Vision Pro that make you think, the heck with it, I'm just going to use a laptop?
I think that in the first couple of days of use, you sort of put up with these compromises because you're really getting used to it. And also it's not as bad. It's not as wearing. And so then after you wear it for a number of days in a row, you're like, I kind of need a break from this thing. I think there's a couple of things that come towards the steps of setting that up, right? So I've got to take it out, which is not a big deal. I could keep it on my desk, right? But I got to make sure the battery's charged and all the things are sort of set up. So it's not like you can set it up so it's like plug and play and you're ready to go, but not if you are traveling to and from work, which I do a lot. I come in and out of the office a lot. So that's one place, which is, again, one of the reasons I find like just keeping it next to the side of my bed is easier than I've got to, and Kevin, I don't know if do you have the travel case for it?
I do, yes.
You have the pillow?
The pillow.
Yeah.
I call it the marshmallow, but yeah, same idea. It's this giant, white, soft, fluffy case.
Don't you have it here? Isn't it here?
I do, yes.
Yes. Do you want to show it to the camera?
Sure. Well, no, because it's a delicate tower that I've arranged over here with my electronics, and I don't want to knock anything over.
That's actually interesting that even just showing the case on camera was too much of a hassle. Yeah.
But that is a little bit about it. Like that is actually a good moment right there to say, like, I've got to pick this case up. I got to pack everything in it. I got to, make sure the battery's connected, everything's right. And it's I could just pick up my phone. I could just open the laptop on my the lid of my laptop. And I mentioned that a little bit in the comment. I do think this thing is great for public transit and for flying. Like it was a wonderful experience flying with this thing because you just are like, yes, the plane really does suck as much as we all thought it does. Like,
yeah, talk about your experience flying with the Vision Pro on, because this is something that we've talked about. Is like these things are starting to show up on airplanes, and other reviewers have said this is the single best use case for the Apple Vision Pro is being on an airplane. What was your experience like?
It was that. I had to fly on a quick business trip down to Florida. I decided to pack it. And I just sort of, I'll watch something quick on it. I'll just try it out. And then I ended up wearing it for the 3-hour flight because it really took me out of the seat. And I do describe this in the column, and I'll explain it here a little bit too, because it was a miserable flying situation. It was I booked the ticket in the 24 hours, and I get to my seat, and there's a woman who wants to sit on the aisle and her husband wants to sit in the middle. Her husband wants to sit on the window seat. And I am in the middle of them. And there's no budging. They do not want to move. I'm like, okay. And I sit down and she wants to talk to me and be friends with me. And then they're passing things back and forth between me. It was like out of a
Wait, this is truly the worst flying situation because people do that now. They book the window and the aisle if they're flying together because they think, well, no one's going to want that middle seat between us. And then people end up booking the middle seat. And now you're just stuck between this couple that is passing snacks and trying to talk to each other over you.
Throwing Cheetos at each other.
Yeah. Yes.
And I put this thing on. And I was blown away actually just how seamless the United Wi-Fi worked because it never those words had never come out of my mouth before. I quickly get on United Wi-Fi. I'm already to their free entertainment tab. I'm streaming 480p Friends, and it is the future we were promised. And it takes you out of that situation. You can turn the dial, and I'm in Mars or the moon or whatever environment I was on, and it's great.
So you did like traveling with this Vision Pro. You do not like working with it as much as you thought you would. Let's talk about the good. What impressed you? What have you actually found yourself going back to use this thing for a month later?
Really watching stuff. I've been watching what have I watched in there? So I watched Lessons in Chemistry. I watched the last couple episodes in there. It was great. I've been watching Slow Horses. So really, I guess I'm a walking ad for Apple TV right now or Apple TV Plus. Watching stuff. I mean, and I had a mention of this in the column, but my wife likes to watch Love is Blind, and I do not. I do not care for this show. No offense to any listeners. And so I find it to be very dystopian, but sometimes I will put on the headset while she's watching on the couch. I put on the headset, I put my AirPods in, and we can be together but we're not together.
I see. I do think this is one of the use cases that I am most excited about because my wife and I, we like to watch TV together, but we also have some different taste. She's a fan of the Real Housewives franchise. I'm not that invested in that series, but so I have also used it this way as kind of a way to say, like, I want to be in bed next to you watching TV, both of us, but I'll watch my show and you watch your show, and we'll sort of happily coexist with each other. It's
Kevin,
great for that. They should market that.
We can have a first wives club of the Vision Pro.
Yeah, support group. My spouse has a Vision Pro.
Yeah, I've literally been talking about this with Nilay Patel as we were doing the review, that our wives should just get together and talk about the reviewers of the Vision Pro, because I same exact situation, and it does sound dystopian and sad, but also it's nice. We still want to be next to each other, but we're just not watching the same thing.
Can I ask you about something that I've started to notice as I use this thing more? Do you feel any kind of, let down when you take off the Vision Pro and you no longer have, you're no longer surrounded by screens and moving things and videos? You're just kind of in like base reality, and it's just like what your two eyes can see. Do you ever feel like, I kind of wish I had those screens back?
Yes. So because the original video, I did wear it for an unhealthy amount of hours in a row. And when I would take it off, I would actually, there was something that happened with my like consciousness and mind where I was, wait, is there supposed to be a window there? Not a real window. Like, is there supposed to be an app there? Like it messed with me to that degree.
It messes with you.
And I would take it off.
I keep trying to
like,
pinch things.
Right.
I heard you got a note from HR about that.
I keep trying to close Casey out. Close window. And he's not disappearing.
Absolutely, it does. And you take the, and that's where I think some of this future stuff is really compelling. You get used to seeing digital stuff in your real world and you're like, where did it go? Why isn't it there anymore? You're like, I went in the living room. I thought I left a window in there. I keep calling them windows, but an app. They should have called this windows.
I have to say, the latent side of me that does feel like we actually should just shut down all the technology to see what happens is really coming out hearing you describe your little bespoke realities that you're creating for yourself inside your dystopia machine. Like, I don't know, you guys.
Well, I also I want to ask you about the reaction of other people to you wearing this device, because my experience so far in the time that I have had the Vision Pro is that when you break it out, like I was at a gathering of friends this weekend and I brought the Vision Pro.
What poor person's gathering did you ruin with your Vision Pro?
Well, I thought, like, I'm going to take some spatial videos. I'm going to, demo it, pass it around. And I would say like half the people at this gathering wanted to try it and put it on, and the other half were completely repulsed by it. We're like, get this thing out of my field of vision. I do not want to be in the same room as this device. Have you had similar reactions from people in your life?
No, everyone in my life really loves me and just loves me for who I am, Kevin. So I'm sorry that
boom,
you haven't surrounded yourself with such loving people. I mean, it's more strangers. Yeah, strange. I mean, wearing it in the public spaces. I wore this very quickly because I had the early review unit. And I had it in the office after I was able to say I had it, which was after the embargo. And people were always just coming by and pointing. And I have an office with a glass window. So they also think I can't hear them, but I can hear them and I can see them. And I just would keep telling people, yes, I can see you and you're naked.
So if you had to assign an overall grade to the Apple Vision Pro in your month of testing it, what would you give it?
Do I get to break out like certain things? Like,
sure.
Like travel is an A. Watching Love is Blind, A, because I don't have to watch it. Working
spousal
is
avoidance,
D.
A.
Yes,
yeah.
Spousal. There we go. Spousal avoidance, A. Working, D. FaceTiming, F.
Not a big fan of the personas.
It's useless. It's just like nobody's taking me seriously, and I haven't tested the beta, which is supposed to make some improvements, but as you mentioned, you call people and they are laughing. This is a humorous call, and you're not getting anything done.
Yes, there's no way to surreptitiously like enter a meeting and not have the entire meeting be derailed by the presence of your creepy VR avatar.
Yeah, it's just everyone's laughing, and mocking you and saying you look like Botox on hell. And I've just terrible things have been said to my persona. It's just...
People are so mean to the AI avatars. This is a big problem.
The other thing that I really do think a lot about is the way to capture video on this thing. I don't know, Kevin, if you've done that at all. And I know you're a recent
spatial
parent.
videos?
Yeah, the spatial video.
Yes.
Yeah, like watching those in here is really compelling. But also
it's
the idea.
amazing.
Yes. But also the idea that you can capture video with a camera on your head is, that's really where Meta has broken through on the Ray-Bans. And this is obviously not the form factor that Apple should go for, but I do think that's something down the line for Apple, whether it's a different form factor or this. Like I just shot a video this week on Tesla chargers and my Ford, but I wore those Ray-Bans the whole time and was recording a lot of the footage, right? I pick those up a lot now to get first-person video, whether I'm doing it for work or I'm doing it with my kids, because like I go skiing with my kids and I don't want to be holding a phone. So there's a lot that I think that is coming with head computers.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the spatial photos and videos are something that, like, basically, if you're going to buy one of these things and spend all the money to get one, like, that is the feature that you are probably going to end up using the most. At least I find myself most excited about that feature. I've taken a number of spatial videos. These are these 3D videos. When you wear them, or when you watch them in the Vision Pro, it like feels like you're in the memory. It's like very sort of uncanny. And yeah, I've been using that a lot. You can also take those on a new iPhone 15 Pro. So you don't have to be like wearing the headset everywhere you go. But that I feel like is a feature that Apple should tout more, because that is just so compelling and so different from what's out there on other devices.
Interesting. All right, so we've learned a lot of lessons about the Vision Pro over the past month. Sounds like, Kevin, you have some things to look forward to as you get used to your new purchase. But at the end of the day, I feel like what I'm hearing both of you say is, if you were inclined to just ignore this thing for now, you can absolutely just ignore it. Is that a fair assessment?
Sure. Fair.
Great. Great.
Yeah,
but Casey, are you you've done a demo? I'm going to interview you now. You've done a demo. Yeah. You feel any yearning to get one of these and try it out? Do the week test?
I do feel a twinge, and I do think a week test might actually be the most fun for me. When I tried it, the thing I said on the show was, if I had this thing, I think my main use for it would be entertainment. That was the stuff that seemed the most compelling. Watching the video, doing the little, VR dinosaur experience, that's what I wanted. At the same time, Joanna, I kept thinking about my experience using the Meta headsets, which was I would use them for a month and I would put them in a drawer and I would never get them back out. And I just thought, I'm not willing to spend almost $4,000 to have that experience, and I still think that is the case. At the same time, I love to play video games. I love to play my PlayStation 5. The moment that I can play like a PS5 game and project like the entire world of Diablo 4, the game I'm playing right now, on a wall and like play it with my PlayStation controller, that's amazing. So I'm very much like in the camp of, yes, there is a there. It just feels like one of those things where we're several years and product iterations away from me using it all the time.
But I'm curious what you make of this comparison between the Vision Pro and the Apple Watch, because as we've talked about on the show before, the Apple Watch, when it first came out, was sort of faced some of the same kinds of criticisms. People said, what is this for? Why do I need another screen? Why do I need another thing that I have to remember to charge every day? Why do I need my text messages to come through to my watch? And it took actually a couple years for Apple to realize what this thing was actually good for, which was fitness and step tracking and things like that, and to really sort of lean into those features. And now it's the best-selling watch in the world, and it makes billions of dollars a year for Apple, and it's a huge success. So Does this rollout, the Vision Pro, remind you at all of the Apple Watch? And is there anything that we could learn from sort of watching earlier generations of pundits sort of, scratching their head trying to figure out what that was for?
Yes and no. I think you hit on the ways that it does, right? They didn't quite know or figure out what the killer app, I hate using the term, but let's use it here, was going to be for watches. Fitness certainly became one of them. I think fitness is going to be one on the headset as well. I think that's just something Apple wants to push throughout its product line. But I think one thing I do keep saying with this is with the iPhone, we absolutely knew what its purpose was before it came, right? Phone calls, texting, email, those things were established by the category already. Same with the watch and wearables. We knew that wearables were good for telling time and for working out. Fitbits had been around. They had already seen that category grow. In this category, you've got gaming, right? I mean, what are the real reasons people buy VR headsets right now? Gaming. So Apple's got to break out into those other categories because it's not, Casey, you hit on it before. If you could play some of your PS5 games in here, maybe you'd be really excited about. But guess what? You can buy a headset through Sony, right? So what is that thing? And that's where I think it's different.
Here's my tip to Apple. I think they should take a page out of the Apple Watch's book and they should show you the time when you're using the Vision Pro.
This is one of the craziest things about it.
Such
a
good idea.
It has no clock.
It's like a Vegas casino?
Where's the clock?
You have to go up. You have to go up into the control center.
Oh, see, I hadn't found the clock, and I felt like I was in a casino.
For what it's worth, I was making a joke because I assumed that the time would be very visible somewhere
it's not.
in the operating system.
It's not. I thought I was crazy. I was like, is there really no clock on this thing?
Then this has been upgraded to a legitimate suggestion.
Yes.
Show the time. In fact, on the little part of the mask where it shows, get rid of the eyes and just show me, like 1:05 p.m.
That's a great idea. You're a walking alarm clock.
A walking alarm clock. That's a $1 billion idea, baby.
Great idea.
I love it.
Kevin, the thing about the clock, I actually had meant to mention in the first review, and it fell out. Like it just got cut along the way. It is maddening. And I think I keep thinking it was on purpose, so you do lose track of time in there, and you're like, what time is it? Oh my gosh, I've been in here for 3 days.
Well, as I keep testing this product, I will keep your experience in mind. I hope to discover some more things that it is good for, but I share a lot of your frustrations with this device already, and I think there are still a lot of bugs to be worked out.
And how will we know? Are you going to keep this? Is this a New York Times owned Vision Pro?
This is a New York Times owned Vision Pro, so I will keep it unless they pry it away from me, which they might do. We'll see. We'll see how this podcast goes.
I've actually asked them to pry it away from you, so hopefully my prayers will be heard.
It is good for trolling your co-host, I've found. I did have a good experience of making an I'm with stupid sign and just hovering it over Casey's face.
Which only you could see until you airdropped it to me so that I could see it.
I'm just saying, there are cheaper ways to troll you, but few are as satisfying.
Well, I look forward to watching this video of this podcast in my Vision Pro in a Safari window.
Oh, you got to let us know how we look at IMAX resolution. You'll see every pore. All right, Joanna Stern, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Joanna.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.